I'm John Beaudin. Here's part 2 of our interview with Level 42 co-founder Phil Gould. This is Rock History Music. Why did you leave?
Well, I had some issues in terms of trust with my bandmates, and because it's very difficult to explain the whole thing. It's boring anyway. But I just felt like I had certain things that weren't right. It was things that I couldn't. It made me feel like I couldn't trust the people I was with, and that made it very hard for me. But then we got to the end of the year. It was so successful at this point that we then just sat down and then we should keep going, But I think really my time was over by that point. But I kept going for another couple of years. Running the family. The album's called the following year was very successful. It has a couple of good songs on it, but the way it was recorded was kind of like formulaic, based on something about you. So if you listen to Lessons in Love, it's got the amazing guitar parts of my brother, but it's basically the same kind of vibe in the structure as Something About You, because we'd hit upon a formula. And I don't work like that. I can't function like that. I really don't like that attitude to music. So I knew my time was up, but I saw out the project and I left at the end of the following year, after the tour.
What was the reaction when you said you were leaving? Were they surprised or not surprised?
They weren't surprised. And at that point, we had a very kind of interesting management situation, divide and rule kind of vibe. So it was kind of, I don't think I don't think people care too much, really. I think it was just seen as being difficult. I thought the label thought I was being difficult. I remember having an argument with the label on the artwork, because there was an album called World Machine, and there was a track called A Physical Presence. So I gave them all the titles, and here's all the titles of the credits. And when they showed me the sleeve, it said Physical Presence. And I said, well, the song's called A Physical Presence, and that's what we sing. A physical presence. Why have you dropped the A? Well, you don't need that. And I said, that's not your decision to make. And then they go like, why are you being difficult? So I had this reputation of being like a bit difficult. Maybe I was, I don't know. But I was trying to maintain standards and also maintain, I was saying, well, I don't expect you to sort of come up to modify titles. And I know it sounds a bit petty now, but it was just like that. There was a perception in the band that I was the tricky one or the arty one. And perhaps that may have been true, but the bottom line is all the album titles and concepts came from me, and most of the I'd co-written 8 of the 9 songs on the World Machine, so I thought I had a stake in it, but the label had other ideas,
The new video, love the new video. So I'd heard in the interview you just did that's a short film.
Well, the idea was I'm working with these lovely people in Vienna. The idea was to make a video, but also to do it in a conceptual way, like as if it was a short movie. So that piece of footage has a life now, that's being entered in short film festivals around the world. The label, that we don't have the huge budgets to do a video like that for every song, but we'll do another one for the 4th single, I think. But the idea is, I love that idea that you can generate, kind of a visual form and then has a life of its own. It's not just it's very hard to monetize a video for somebody in my position, but if it goes into short film festivals around the world, then it has a life, and it's actually won a bit of love. It's got, I think, Best Director for Sarah in the Venice Film Festival, and it's been finalist in a few. So I really love engaging with that world. So we hope to. I'm looking for arts funding for some other things that I'd like to do with her, but it was a beautiful day. I mean, I love Vienna. I wanted to move to Vienna until the pandemic hit. And Sarah Shearer, her name is part of this incredible artistic community where she just called all these people in for the day, and her ex-drama teacher. There's one of the guys in the last shot, one of the older people. There's one guy with a beard. He's the son of a Nobel Prize winning physicist from Switzerland, all these incredible people I was talking to, and we just let her run with the narrative to do what she wanted to do, how she heard the song, and it was just beautiful. I just love that. I think one of the great things about getting older for me is to have less controlling instincts and less kind of like, you've got to be like this, got to be like that, just to allow things to happen. And a lot of the music on this project was made like that. I would somebody, could you come and he's going to play on this track? And so what do you think then? And they would just do something. And I go, yeah, brilliant, rather than say, you need to play this, because I may have done that in my 20s a little bit,
I was reading on Captain Beefheart the other day, and I was, kind of curious, because one of those artists that I I first started with Zappa, and then I went across and the stuff they'd done together. And I was interested with him. I didn't realize that he was one of those guys that really had tight rein on the musicians who played with him.
Yeah.
He kind of told them what to do. And I remember thinking, I mean, that goes against the creative spirit for me. But again, many great albums were made by someone saying, no, I want to put that way. It's the way it goes.
I think it was like an orchestral composer, Zappa. He was a rock musician, but he was really coming at it from that way that he wrote everything out, scored it like for an orchestra, but it was his orchestra was, Napoleon and Ruth Underwood and Chester Thompson, so it was all written out. There was the ultimate control freak, but in a really good way. I love what he did. And I was absolutely huge fan of Ruth Underwood, one of the greatest percussionists of all time, and it's incredible how she just, I think, got stopped at the beginning of the 80s or something. She just got to a point and just stopped doing it, which is, it's just crazy. She didn't carry on. So what she did with Zappa was really, that was what she did. And then she just left it and became a mum and has a very, it's amazing, isn't it? You can be that gifted, but she just turned away from it. But anyway, that was an incredible band. But yeah, I wouldn't want to be in a situation like that, because the only way I function as a musician is if I can sort of find a way to create my own thing within a certain context. And it's a bit, I've often thought the analogy of the Sundance Kid is quite interesting. In that film, Butch Cassidy, like there's a moment where he's been asked to shoot, to prove he can shoot, and he's asked to hold the gun out in front of him, and he just can't hit anything, and then he just says to the guy who runs the sort of the money thing, he's saying, can I move? And he said, what do you mean, can I move? And so he puts the gun back in the holster and does that, kind of like moves, and he hits everything. If he does it his way, it works, If he does it a way that he, that's, and I feel like I'm like that as a musician. I can only do it the way my instincts tell me to do it. If you tell me to do it in the style of so-and-so or something like that, my brain just fries, So I couldn't ever do a Zappa gig, I don't think.
You came back for Forever Now.
Yeah, I mean, I got a call to do this album, and it wasn't the best situation for them, but why I went back was to heal the wounds, And I'd actually just written a song with Steve White, and it was called Love in a Peaceful World. And the first verse went, you came from out of nowhere yesterday, you blew my mind, you blew my cool, but that's okay. I know I couldn't run forever anyway. I knew I'd have to face the truth someday. It's like, but I got the call from Mark the following day. It's almost like, but I knew that like by working together, we could iron out some of those things that had happened, and that's what we did. But the band kind of, with the label they were on at the time, had run its course. I mean, the label really weren't behind the band at that point. RCA, so it was like, forget it. But at least it was a good chance to work together and to talk some things through and put it to bed. And it was great. We did that. I think what we should have done was get my brother involved and get Wally involved. Well, Wally was involved, but we should have actually sat down and done it in a more structured way. But it was a really nice time working with Mark again. It was great. That was probably about 5 years after I'd left that I did that, 92. I think we finished the album 93, something like that.
We'll have more from drummer Phil Gould coming up in 3-4 days. Make sure you comment on our video, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos. Buy a t-shirt, help support our channel, or simply make a donation. There's a link in the description of this video. I'm John Beaudin. Take care of yourself.